on people and objects being like, are you my boyfriend?
Right.
Are you like, do you love me? And we just chose each other, and it was so simple. Like, it was so simple, and I wanted it to be harder. I even tried to make it harder, and he was like, I just like you. Like, this just works. And it did. And like,
yeah, I know that feeling. Yeah.
Yeah. It's like, it's just, why is it so easy? And then you want to go back and tell that past version of yourself, like, no. Someday someone will just get it. And you won't have to explain yourself. You won't have to pitch yourself.
Right.
They'll just get it. They'll get you.
So you got married?
Yeah. First, it was like, everything's fine. Everything's normal.
Yeah.
And then it's not. And it happens so quickly, and you're so sure that this has got to be something that happens to someone else. This can't be the actual reality.
This is before you got married?
This is before we got married. So
what happened?
I was at work, and we would normally get to work. We would G-chat all day, waste company money.
Yeah.
and we were G-chatting. It was Halloween. We were making a plan for that night. It's like, we had just moved in together. We're going to hand out candy, real relationship milestones happening. And
right.
He stopped replying, and I was so annoyed. I was like, dude, like, am I getting candy? Are you getting candy?
Right,
How dare
yeah.
you go to a meeting right now? And my phone rang, and I was in this big open space, and I was also mad. I was like, dude, you can't call me, people. We have to waste time surreptitiously. And
yeah.
The person on the other end of the phone wasn't Aaron. It was one of his colleagues, and he wanted to know if Aaron had ever had a seizure. And I thought he was joking, because this was like, these were the kind of guys who, again, this sort of thing would not fly in 2020, but in 2010 at an agency, if you left your computer open, they would send an all agency email being like,
right.
Hey guys, just letting you know that I've got terrible diarrhea, and I'll be taking the rest of the day off.
Sure.
And so it wasn't that much of a stretch to be like, oh, maybe they're just calling his girlfriend to fake his death.
Yeah.
And he wasn't joking. And he said that Aaron had a seizure at his desk, and they needed to know where to send him, where the ambulance should send him when they got there. And I remember looking at my supervisor, who sat next to me, and saying, if Aaron's in an ambulance, where should they send him? And she told me the name of a hospital. And I called my mom, who worked upstairs, and I said, I don't have a car. You need to take me to the hospital right now. And she came down, and she pulled up to the emergency room, and she said to me, look, I know you're scared. I need you to go in there and be a woman. And she reached across and pushed me out of the car. And when I walked into the back of the ER to find him, I pulled the curtain back, and he was shaking. And he was faking a seizure.
Faking it?
To mess with me.
So he'd come out of the real seizure.
He'd come out of the real seizure. And he was like, man, what's going on? Like, it was so out of the ordinary. And we both went to such an extreme place of denial that we thought, oh, this is funny. Like, we had to make it funny for each other.
Of course, right. But you didn't know what it was at that point, right? Or you didn't?
No. And honestly, it's like, people have seizures for all kinds of reasons. Who knows what it is? And they did all of these tests, and you're all of a sudden a part of this machine. You're a part of this medical machine, and you allow each other to have this sort of magical thinking. And we did that for each other, where, okay, well, they're taking you for an MRI just to make sure nothing is wrong, because that's how not wrong things are.
Right.
And so we knew that night that he did have a brain tumor, and I spent the night in the hospital with him, and I asked him to marry me. With his mom laying next to me in a fold-out chair. And he said, don't marry me, because I'm going to die. And I said,
But you did it.
Well, you did it. And
what was it? What was the prognosis? I mean, like,
he had, we didn't know, because they don't, there's so many people who don't want to tell you, and there's so many reasons that they can't tell you. They can see a brain tumor, but it's so sadly not like Grey's Anatomy.
It's not definitive.
It's not definitive, and we knew he had a brain tumor. We knew it was in like the right side, the right frontal lobe, and he had brain surgery, and we didn't know for weeks what it meant. And our actual wedding, this is my wedding dress, by the way.
Oh, really?
Yeah, it still has the tag on it because it was $265, and I was hoping to return it, but I sweated too much, and I had to keep it.
So you mean they had the surgery, so you didn't know if it was malignant or not?
No, and we tried to believe it wasn't. Like we tried, because I had a friend who had a strange, his ears were ringing, and then he had a brain tumor removed, and it was nothing. It was nothing, and I wanted that to be true, and I thought it would be, but a part of me also right away did go to the very worst case. It went to the worst case. And we got married a month after that brain surgery. And we knew when we got married, we knew on that day that it was stage 4 glioblastoma. And we had told his doctor to never give us, never give us a timeline. Like, what would you do with that information that would possibly be useful? And we would rather just live with the time we had left. And also, I did Google it once. And I Googled it, and Aaron saw it on my phone. And he said, "Why are you Googling that?" And I was like, did I? I mean, and right away at the very top of the page, and the only time I ever Googled it, it said 3 to 5 years.
After they remove a tumor. That's just a matter of time before it grows more.
I honestly didn't even get that far. Maybe they meant from the minute it started growing, but it ended up being 3 years from that first brain surgery, from our wedding to his funeral was the 3-year wedding anniversary, our 3-year wedding anniversary. So
that day?
Mm-hmm.
Did you do that on purpose?
I did it on purpose. It was 8 days later, and I wanted to have one day to remember stuff and not, there's so many days. It's like, there's the day he had a seizure. There's the day he had a brain surgery. There's the day we found out it was cancer. There's the day I was told, I sat with him in that same ER, and they said, it's done. You don't have any time. And then there's the day he dies. And then there's so many days that are sort of, that will ring in your mind forever. And then there's the reality of living every single day without this person. And those are, I don't know, you're in, I don't want to diagnose you, because I don't have any expertise other than lived experience. And I am not part of a grief therapy machine. And also I'm a person who knows like that it is forever, and you're feeling stuff now, but you're also in shock, and you will be for a long time. And that time is not a balm. Like,
how long, when he got sick, now there was sort of a triple whammy, right?
Well, he got sick, and then we had
do you have a kid with him?
I do. Yeah. Yep. So about a year later after our wedding, we had a child, and his brain tumor came back. He had a brain surgery like 2 weeks before that baby was due. We went into it knowing, and really like he went into it knowing like that he was going to have a kid and probably not be there. And he did that with me anyways. And I think that was so brave, and I think that was so generous. And I got to see him be a dad, which he deserved. And
for like what, a year?
For almost 2 years. So we had Ralph together, and he had a second brain surgery right before Ralph was born. And I thought, this will kill him, and I will have this baby alone. And that didn't happen. We had another year and a half, and then I could tell that things were getting worse. He couldn't hold Ralph. He couldn't use the left side of his body anymore. And so we knew that it was getting bad, but you have to go get the evidence from an MRI. And honestly, our years together were so good and so happy and so normal except for going to the hospital every week to give blood and going to the hospital for 3 days a month for chemo and having brain surgeries. We also just like had a baby and watched Game of Thrones and like I yelled at him for not taking out the garbage. And like, we just had this normal life, and cancer wasn't all of it. It was just,
and then your father got sick.
Yeah. So rude. My dad was, look, I have no basis to back this up other than my dad did get a flyer from the VA. My dad was in Vietnam. He was exposed to all kinds of stuff. He developed lymphoma, and he was diagnosed in May of 2014. He was dead by October 2014, and Aaron died 6 weeks after that. And I was pregnant when I was pregnant for most of that time, that last year. That's not true. I don't know how to word pregnancy, but basically I lost my second pregnancy a week before my dad died. And that was the last chance that we had to have a second child together. And I know it sounds insane to say like we were going to have another kid together, but I wanted as much of him as possible. Like I wanted to just keep as much of him as possible. And he wanted to have another baby, and we wanted Ralph to have a sibling. We wanted, on our second date, we were talking about, I wanted 4 kids. He wanted 2. I was obviously going to trick him into at least 3. And it just, looking back, that sounds crazy. And I obviously was, grief does make you crazy. And I was grieving. Like I was grieving from the minute he was diagnosed, that I knew we weren't gonna be my parents. We weren't gonna have a 40th anniversary party. Like we were lucky to have like a 3-year anniversary party, and which was his funeral. But yeah, all that happened at once. I had to bring Aaron with me to the doctor to find out the baby was dead, and I just felt like I just fucking ruined the end of his life. Like I got greedy, and he just,
ugh.
Yeah. And then I had to drive across town and be like, "Hey, Dad," like
it's so much, but I guess it knowing. I mean, it's interesting and kind of emotional that there was something driving you to kind of save these parts of him and have this life, and that the love was, so deep and needed to be honored, that you kind of forged ahead and did all this stuff.
Yeah. We did it together.
But like all this death and tragedy, like it's almost like, I mean, after all of that, after processing that or continuing to process it, that sort of became like your calling somehow.
Kind of, yeah. So there's this is also like such a sign of the times, but Aaron and I had, we had started a blog that I wrote called myhusbandstumor.com, because that URL was affordable to me. And I just wanted I was writing everything down. I was keeping all these notes about these moments that we were experiencing and how clear they were, because I was still paying attention.
Right.
I knew there was value in paying attention. I'd never paid attention to the hard things in my life. I'd always been like, just ignore it and it'll go away. Like, just break up with this boy and pretend you never met him. And like, just get through this meeting. And I wanted to be present for all of it. And it was also so hard to honestly, to keep everybody on an email. It's like, I don't know who I kept forgetting my brother, my big brother, who's the best one. He's so kind. And I would send out these emails about Aaron's cancer, and my brother would be like, "Wait, what? Aaron has cancer?" And I'm like, "Oh shit, dude. Yes. Yeah." Like, sorry, you had to hear it from Dad. So I started this blog, and it was really just for our family. And it was really an act of passive aggression. It was really just, Aaron had a great Gatsby life where everyone was so present for the good times. And it was really lonely being his wife when he was sick. It was very lonely.
Oh, so you wanted to bring everybody into it to sort of...
I wanted to shame them into showing up. And I wanted to let people know passive aggressively? Why have a direct conversation when you could just write a blog post that's like, he's still a person